Well, it's time now for a Movers and Shakers segment, and on top of the list we are tracking HUL. So that's down nearly 1.5% after CLSA retains their sell call on the stock and says that all the good things are completely priced in. Agam, walk us through with more details about what the report has to say.
Right, so as you suggested that while they do retain their sell rating, a lot of the positives, and there are quite a few positives as CLSA has maintained the reports, they're all priced into the current market price. So in terms of fundamentals, they are very solid, and when it comes to the 40 times FI16 PEs, that's something which is fully valued into. And moreover, while they do maintain that the consumer confidence has increased, but that's yet to translate into numbers for HUL. Moreover, they're also looking at around 16% CAGR, that's over a period of FY15, FY18. And while there will be continued high focus on product innovation and distribution expansion, we could see a little bit of that playing on to margins. But on the whole, they continue to retain the sell. And once again, with a little more weakness, given the fact that we have seen the valuations which are very richly.
By the way, the target price that CLSA has put out on HUL is 775, which means still about a 40 rupees downside from current levels.
All right, and Sun TV is the one that's getting hammered in trade on reports that the Home Affairs Ministry has denied security clearance to their network. Mangalam, you've been tracking that stock. What more can you tell us post the management commentary earlier this morning?
Well, firstly, Sumaira, the stock is getting hammered because remember, nearly all of its revenues and profits come from the 33 channels that have been denied security clearance by the Home Ministry. In fact, the Home Ministry has communicated this decision now to the INB Ministry, or the Information and Broadcast Ministry, which will discuss implications of this before carrying out a decision. Now, in case the INB Ministry toes the line of the Home Ministry and does revoke the license of the channel, the company is expected to move court against the order, which is what happened a couple of days earlier as well, where the Home Minister had earlier declined security clearance to the group radio channels. Now, we are told that the Information and Broadcast Minister Arun Jaitley wrote to the Home Ministry seeking a review of that decision. At the same time, the company also moved the Madras High Court to put a stay or to get a stay order on that decision, and the company did get a stay order for the their radio business. A lot of brokerages have written on that. Credit Suisse has downgraded the stock to neutral. In fact, they've reduced their target price by nearly 64% to 290 rupees from 450 rupees because they believe that the risk from these legal cases is much higher than anticipated. And the big concern is that even if the INB Ministry denies security clearance, the company will go into court and they might get a stay order. But if the promoters do get convicted of all the charges that they are facing, the license for the channel may get suspended, and that is what prompts them to reduce their target price. However, SBI Capital is unfazed. They maintain their buy rating and they also maintain their target price because they consider that they believe the company will see a long-drawn battle if the legal license is cancelled. And also, shutting down the network, according to them, is an unprecedented event, and they don't see that happening, or they assign very little probability to that. However, they do expect the stock to remain under pressure due to uncertainties, but we did speak to the management, so let's listen to them as well.
All right, we'll come back to what the management has to say in just a bit. But thanks, Mangalam, for taking us through that. Moving on to Wockhardt, that's under pressure after 200 bottles of captopril tablets as well as clarithromycin tablets are being recalled in the US. Ekta, the stock is down nearly 4%. Is this going to have a big impact?
Since you pronounced the names, I'm not going to do that again. The recall was initiated on 22nd of May. Around 166 bottles of captopril, which is basically a blood pressure drug, and 50 bottles of 500 mg of that antibiotic, clarithromycin, has been recalled by Wockhardt. And remember, it is Bynham Pharmacal, which is basically the managing company which is recalling the drug in response to a recall notice from the manufacturer Wockhardt, and this is a class 2 recall. So basically a class 2 recall means that there could be some temporary or moderate sort of adverse impact in terms of using the drug, but there won't be any sort of adverse impact. Rather, the adverse health consequences of using this drug is remote. Now, the reason for the class 2 recall is given as good manufacturing practice, or CGMP deviations. This was following a US FDA inspection. So that is really that is probably what has really spooked the stock, because a lot of companies recall drugs on frequent basis simply because of particular Class 1 or Class 2 recalls. This is the reason because of the Class 2 recall is a US FDA inspection which noted inadequate investigation of market complaints, hence unsuccessful identification of root cases, and investigation not being expanded to prevent repeat failure. So if in case a consumer went and complained about the particular drug that they were using, according to the US FDA, there wasn't a successful identification of the root cause of the complaint, and hence there could be a repeat event of that case. Additionally, Wockhardt had initiated a recall of these particular blood pressure drugs of over 90,000 bottles in the month of March. And remember that Wockhardt in April had mentioned that they are voluntarily recalling 12 to 15 drugs from the US prior to the import alert on Waluj and Chikalthana. So this might be in line with that. But what has possibly spooked the market is the reason behind why the US FDA has, inspection and what they cited in terms of the Class 2 recall.
All right, elsewhere, Eros is off of its highs, but it's still up about 12% in trade. There are reports that some investor groups are looking or suggesting rather the delisting of the Indian arm. Mangalam, what does this mean for the stock?
Well, that's correct, Sumera. You know, while the shareholders of Sun TV do not want the channels to go off air, the shareholders of Eros International do not want the channel to go on air, because if you look, the shareholders have stalled the company's TV foray. The company had plans of setting up a movie and music channel with an investment of about $50 million. So there are reports that shareholder activism has led the company to delay that, and also they want the company to focus on their film production and digital streaming business. Now, investors are betting on the Eros now, which is their digital business, which is something like a Netflix in India, and they see value in that because Eros also has a library of about 3,000 films. So that shareholder activism is pulling up the stock. Additionally, there are reports unconfirmed by the management that the company has sought expert opinion on delisting their Indian unit, and they will do that via a buyback or a share swap with their American Depository Receipts, or ADRs. These are just reports, and perhaps on anticipation of that, the stock's gaining in trade as well.
Thanks, Mangalam, for that. Moving on to Nestle, it's down another 6%.